Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for coming into the Realignment Alchemist. Today, I thought I would do a blending of biofeedback meets spirit. My name is Rhea, and I hope you enjoy this video. I will be looking at a scan from a client, reviewing the scan, and then bringing in the initiations card deck as spirit comes in to realign my client with these spiritual and emotional needs to bring her to her best and vibrant health. I hope you enjoy. I'm giving you a sneak peek on a bio wellness scan for a client of mine. She has been having symptoms of SIBO, also some issues around pain within the sacral and the root area. There's a pain that's running down her leg all the way up through her back. Could possibly be sciatica. But looking at the biofeedback scan, this is the body of woman, one of the many slides I'm able to scan. And I can see instantly Giardia is a part of her discomfort. Giardia is a parasite that moves within the epidermis, which means it can inhabit all the skin from the outside skin all the way into the reproductive system. With the arthritis in here, the inflammation of the urinary tract, we're also looking at possibly infection within that urinary tract. For sure, there's inflammation. Now, we can also go in here, and the scan is really great, numbering items 1 through 7. 1 being maybe more emotional, and 7 maybe moving up into a physical pathologies. So through this, I like to look up, and again, looking with this body of woman, we can see that her dysbiosis, helminthias, is an infestation of parasites. And even though she's having some discomfort around the urinary tract, perhaps it's not quite as an infection, but there are the feelings of the inflammation. She's got issues within the within the GI tract. And we're looking at also the goiter. So I'll go in and look at her thyroid and look a little deeply within that GI tract. So let's begin with the card reading from the Initiations card deck. This is a card deck that has a 55 card healing system. So as we are correlating with the biofeedback scan, let's go ahead and take a look. So this section is, what is it that we need to heal? How do we heal it? And which initiation has been or will be most influential? So this woman that I scanned, you can see here nutrients. The nutrients card shows up generally when someone has had higher levels of microbes and has not been able to receive the nutrients via the gut. So it is no wonder we see down here on the far corner, we see cell salts. Cell salts are nutrients. They work at a cellular level. They dissolve on the tongue. They totally bypass the gut. She had dysbiosis showing up in her scan. So this is just saying that we need to look at the nutrients, not only like minerals, but you can see in here the water. You can see in here that she's vitamin D deficient, right? And it also is showing up. This card over here just fell out of the deck. It's called the herbal antibiotic, but we'll get to that one. Okay, so her nutrients. So we're not just looking at these foods in here. We're also going to be looking at how she vibrates. This is also correlating with her emotions. She's going through a lot right now. She lost her mother. Right? She's going through quite a bit of stress. And where you're able to vibrate has everything to do with how you feel. I mean, that's pretty much, we know that. So the next one, how do we heal it? The hormone imbalance here. So when this card shows up, this is saying that under the stress, under the body's inability to harbor, absorb, and fully house nutrients, then the hormones are going in disarray. Right? Also a lot of stress, the cortisol. If you remember, her thyroid was showing some, not really like a hypo or a hyper, but just showing that the blood was becoming a bit more dirty, that we needed to look at cleansing the blood so the hormones and the thyroid can run in its like highest form, right? Because the thyroid is connected to the ovaries and to the adrenals, right? All to that entire endocrine system. Okay, so we're looking at that with her. And now look at this. We have spirit speak comes in. This is from the root chakras. And past life influence is very, very interesting. This woman is she's a counselor. She doesn't really believe in this. I have spoken to her in the past about, let's do like a past life regression. Let's look at what's going on here. And in her mind, she's feeling that what she has to deal with in this life is enough. She doesn't want to go back into these other lives. It's going to be too much to deal with, right? Rather than looking at what's happened on these past lives can actually alleviate the pain and that cyclical cycle that she is experiencing in this life. Right? So as we begin to see these cycles, we are able to look at this life with new perspectives and a new way of moving forward. So yeah, so that's kind of moving in. This is under which initiation will be or has been most influential for her. So here, this is interesting because in the elevations category, this is the throat chakra. This is kind of the inner body coming into the outside world. And HPV has shown up a bit in her scans over the years, but really when these nosodes show up in homeopathy, it's not necessarily that someone would house this actual virus. However, they could be housing the energy. Every one of these viruses have their own personalities and their own energies. This one in particular attacks the mucous membranes, therefore making us feel vulnerable, making us feel unsafe, right? So if this, beautiful, client of mine has lost her mother, that was the last of the hierarchy of the family, she could be feeling like she needs protection on some level, whether she needs to get a beautiful, big shepherd, in the home, or if she's a gun girl, something along those areas where she physically feels safe in this realm. There's also the accepting of the Christ spirit on different levels, spirit, God in itself. So those are things that we would talk about with her. Now the new earth has shown up, and this is from the from the crown chakra. And when the new earth shows up, what I love to look at is that this individual, as you can see already, is really being called for a higher purpose, especially when we see these spirit speaks that come in. So the new earth, as we look at this card, I also like to take into account every one of these crystals that you see are actually in Revelations 21 and 22. Excuse me. So as we look at this new earth, we're looking at accepting people that think a bit differently. So let's say that we have someone who believes in the power of crystals, or maybe they could even talk to crystals. Maybe they're speaking to the land and to the plants and to the animals. So what I'm saying is that as I popped in Revelation 21 and 22, not only is this saying that you should read 21 and these revelations, because really we're not supposed to talk about it, but it's also opening up to a world that you have not experienced yet or before. And it could even just bringing this past life influence into her life. So she begins to see life with a new perspective, like with new eyes, So when the new earth comes in, it's like it is for those that are truly being called to heal themselves, to heal the next layer, her children, through this work that she's doing. And, just to be open to whatever we know at this moment in time is not all that we need to know, right? And there's like that next level of education. And this is what the new earth is bringing us. It's quite beautiful. And then the cell salts. Yeah, so the cell salts came in, which is not surprising. The transformation category, this correlates with the heart chakra. When we have everything that we need in our body, when we have all of our nutrients, when we have all of our fats, when we understand who we are, but really when the body is fed, it's such that, that like physiological level, then we're able to cope. We're able to cope with life a bit more. So as we go into dysbiosis, it's not only a part of the matrix, right? Which is not the new earth. It's a part of that draconian matrix to keep us in these like weak and like lower levels of vitality. Moving into this old medicine, like a cell salt, we are going to bypass the gut in its entirety. A cell salts the 12 original 12 original cell salts were from Dr. Schlesinger. And he was actually he was a doctor, he was a homeopath, and he found homeopathy to need something more, right? So he believed that working on that spiritual, that physical level kind of wasn't deep enough, right? So he developed a system where his download was when a human body, is burned, and we're burned to ash, let's just say, it didn't matter if the body was a male or female. It didn't matter what nationality, what color skin they were. Like the bones and the remainings were all the same. And it was sources of calcium, magnesium, potassium and sodium, silica and iron. And every body has them. Every body, not everybody, but every single human skin suit. So what he developed, and there are practitioners that just work within this realm. They're just feeding those minerals back into the body so the body can begin to find its own balance. It's a beautiful way of healing. And when we have someone who is in dysbiosis, and lots of stress, the cortisol is high, obviously it's here. So this type of medicine can be really beneficial for them. So that's something that I'm definitely going to look at. Now look at this one, just fell out of the deck. This is the connection category. This is an herbal antibiotic. Again, the sun, she needs some vitamin D. It's like screaming at her in here, right? But the connection category correlates into that sacral. It has to do with our ability to sense who we are, what we need, our ability to heal ourselves, that inner guidance, and how we spin it into being that inner child, being playful. So the connection category is rooted in that chakra. Here we have an herbal antibiotic. This is like an invitation for her to run a system on this living medicine. When we look at herbal antibiotics, we not only want to target the microbes. So when I went into the GI tract, she did have quite a bit of strep and a little bit of staph. And there were some funky, like wonky little viruses in there. So when we target an herbal antibiotic, we want to be sure to also target the lymph system. Now, that is one thing that I see a lot of practitioners that do not do, especially if you're going on like oil of oregano, and they'll do a bunch of oregano where they're just pounding in, this antibiotic, but you're not spinning the system. So in an advanced formula for like, let's say, oil of oregano oil, you will see maybe cayenne pepper. Sometimes you could even say echinacea, like golden seal echinacea, echinacea and Oregon grape root is a beautiful one. It's really, really effective against strep. So as I look at what I will be putting together for her, this has really helped me to determine, we're going to work a little bit here. This is going to help, the hormones and the nutrients. This is the book that goes along, and it's a 250-page book. So with every single card, there's an action. And of course, we can read about every single card. But I hope you enjoy the reading and this new download of the initiations. No weapon formed against us shall prosper. And we have this porthole here. The porthole is linked with the Spirit of Christ right in here and Shokare, right? But that is enough for now. Thank you for listening, guys. Please like, please share, and let's look forward to the new earth.